Have you ever felt like an imposter or a fraud? Not that you're purposely doing it or trying to misrepresent yourself, but those moments when you have this inkling like you're pretending to be something you're not, or somehow you feel like you don't fit in, you don't belong, like you're not part of these surroundings. Well, today we're talking about why you really feel like an imposter and what you can do to instead stay grounded and present in who you really are, no matter what the circumstances. Hi, I'm Snakard, and on this channel I help entrepreneurs and transformational leaders like you to own your power, free from any blocks or barriers to your success, so that you can make the major impact you're here to make and without ever having to give up what matters most to you. Today we're talking about imposter syndrome, why you feel it and how you can shift it so that you can stay present and grounded in who you really are. This is the fourth and final video in a series titled How to Stop Feeling Like a Fraud and Overcome Imposter Syndrome. So if you haven't caught the prior videos yet, you might want to go back to start at the first one before you catch this one. All right, I'm going to cut straight to the chase today, and then I'll explain myself and what you can do about it. So here it goes. You want to know why you sometimes feel like an imposter? Because you are one. That's right, you are an imposter. So am I. It's part of our human experience. It's part of our inherent design as humans to feel like something we're not. I'm not suggesting that you're purposely deceiving people. Far from it. But think about it. We've talked over the last few videos about feeling like you're not enough, forgetting who you really are, and developing an identity to protect this human existence so that it can survive. But who you really are is a spiritual being, an extension of your Creator, all-powerful and unending. Yet your divine, limitless spirit is housed in this human, breakable, limited body. So you have a physical experience every second of every day of being something that you're not. Most of us aren't conscious to it because we forget who we are. We believe what we see and what we've experienced firsthand to know exactly how breakable we are. And so we believe in this human packaging that we have and relate to ourselves as that. And yes, we are having beautiful, magnificent human experiences. I'm not knocking our humanity. That is an absolutely magnificent part of who we are and what we're here for, that we've come into this body to experience this human existence. But you are not your body, and you are in no way limited. So on a cellular level, on a spiritual level, even on a cognitive level, although it's probably mostly subconscious, you know that you are not this. So of course you feel like an imposter because you are one. You're wearing a costume, you're playing a part, and you're playing something that is so inherently not who you really are, not your true essence. Now, there are a lot of ways that imposter syndrome can show up in our day-to-day life. Lots of ways through our human experience, through our human existence and our human moments that it can show up, and it can sort of fester its way into who we think we are and forgetting who we really are. One of the most obvious ways is probably when you're around people who you maybe think are more successful or smarter or further along, whether it be further along career-wise or professionally, people who seem to be ahead of where you are or ahead of where you want to be. It's easy in those moments to feel like we somehow don't quite measure up, or even like we don't belong, like we don't fit in there, thinking like, holy crap, what the hell am I doing here? It has me even think of a story that Brene Brown shares about going to talk at an event after she's one of the most watched ever TED Talks ever in the existence of TED and talks online. And she showed up to give a talk somewhere and realized it was all corporate executives and had this whole feeling of not-enoughness, of feeling small, of feeling like, what the hell am I doing here? What am I going to say to these people? And there's so many stories I've heard of this. I even heard a quote recently of Michelle Obama talking about how when they had come into the White House, initially she and her husband, Barack Obama, who was the prior president of the US, who she said that she had this moment of like, holy crap, how long is it going to take for us to them to kick us out of here? That's not a direct quote. That's the general memory that I have about what her quote was. But it was that kind of feeling like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, how long are we going to get to stay before they figure out that we don't really belong here? So people at all levels have these experiences of this, of feeling like we don't measure up in some way. Another way imposter syndrome may show up is when you have advanced far along, when you sort of have reached the top. Maybe there are a lot of people depending on you or looking to you for answers. And you may have this fear of like, how long is it going to take for them to figure out, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm making it all up as I go along. Or wonder if someone may question you or challenge you, like, well, what makes you an authority? Who are you to be telling me this? Or who are you to be saying this? The irony here, we're going to talk about in a future video, which is that ultimately we're all just making it up, but we'll get to that in another video. One that I want to spend a couple minutes on today is how imposter can show up on a more personal level. Like when you fought like hell to become more than what or who you once were. Yet maybe way down inside you, or maybe not so way down inside you, you might fear that who you once were is actually the truth and that who you are now is the imposter or the one who's pretending. This plays out for almost every one of us in some way with our families, but I'm going to speak more about families in just a minute. I also want to mention before I get there that every client I've ever had, really I could say every one I've ever known, but certainly every client I've ever worked with, and I have had some insanely successful powerhouse client, every one of them seems to have some kind of story from their past that they're trying to overcome, to prove to themselves or perhaps even to the world that they are not that. Whether it's about coming from a poor small town or a broken home, or having had academic struggles or social awkwardness, or having been bullied or even abused. I'm always amazed how many high achievers seem to be battling their past. Maybe it's because there's so much evidence for who you thought you once were. Maybe you bought into the identity then. As kids, it can be really hard to discern or distinguish between who we really are and who people tell us that we are, or at least who we think people are telling us that we are. I heard a great quote from Joel Osteen the other day. He said, "You are not what people call you. You are what you answer to. So stop answering to what you're not." And that's not just about what other people call you that you answer to. That's about what you call and answer to yourself from the voice inside your own head. Have you ever noticed how suffering can continue long after the person who seemed to be the source of the suffering is gone out of your life? That's because you keep perpetuating it in your own mind. Now, I know you, and I know where you are with your level of success and your level of achievement. It's not like you ruminate on these things and hang on to it and, oh, boo-hoo, poor me for these things. But these things, when they're down deep inside us, they tend to pop up sometimes, even after we think we've long since handled them. How many times have you thought to yourself, damn, wasn't I over this already? I thought I handled this stuff. And even when you do own your power, even when you own it spiritually and as far as your humanity goes, when you really own that you are amazing, you are powerful, you are strong, you are brilliant, you are divine, magnificent, gifted, talented, smart, funny, savvy, you can make anything happen. And it's amazing, isn't it? How people from your past, particularly people that have known you way back, like family members that go all the way back to those moments when you formed the identity, when you were trying to survive and you were figuring out who you are, how sometimes just one little comment or one little look from one of them can just snap you right back, almost like they're just putting you right back in your place. And in that one moment, it's like suddenly you're 5 or 8 or 12 years old again. But just like we talked about at the beginning of this video, who you really are is divine. You are not this in reality, and you are most definitely not the identity that you created to keep this alive, to survive, to not get kicked out of the cave. Your identity of who you thought you needed to be, or the identity of who you answered to, perhaps when others called you, it all formed to make up for your perceived not-enoughness of your humanity. It was to make up for some lack, like the pure, real, raw you was not okay as you were or as you are. And it is a complete freaking illusion because there is no lack. There is absolutely nothing lacking about you. You are a whole and complete and perfect being. You are limitless. You are powerful. You are all powerful, unbreakable. This body maybe can be broken, but not your spirit. You can't even give it up if you try. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had plenty of times, way too many times, when I felt like I played small, when I put out my own light, when I gave my power away. And I'm using air quotes there because really, I think that even that is a load of BS. You cannot give your power away. You can forget who you are and you can pretend that you don't have power, but there ain't no way you can give away your power. That's just another form of being a fraud, living a lie, pretending to be something that you're not. Because you are power. You have the power within you that creates worlds, as Abraham Hicks says all the time. You are the Spirit of God, and you've come into this life to freely express the gifts and the talents that you've been given so that you can make your mark on this world. So own it, revel in it, and don't let anything shake you off of it. This video is being released the day before Thanksgiving in the US and the start of the Christmas holiday. And there is nothing like the holidays and family gatherings to unravel you and throw you into survival mode. Go to spencersnakard.com/grounded, linked in the description below, to download your free meditation audios. These meditations, and one is only a couple minutes long, can help you stand in your power and remember who you really are, no matter what's going on around you, and no matter who the people around you relate to you as. See you in the next one.